as we near the 2020 NFL draft, I've gone through and watched all 17 quarterbacks that were invited to the NFL scouting combine, a few others, so that's 20 total. And I think it's a perfect opportunity to kind of go through and give my overall thoughts on this quarterback class in general. And to do that, I've kind of broken them up into different tiers. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through each of my tiers and kind of explain where I kind of see the quarterbacks within that tier. Obviously, I'm going to spend more time on the top quarterbacks than the bottom quarterbacks, but it's just definitely something to go through and give my overall thoughts on this class in general. And we have to start at the top tier of quarterbacks. I'm throwing the top four in there. Joe Burrow from LSU, Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama, Justin Herbert from Oregon, and Jordan Love from Utah State. Those are my top four. I think there's a little bit of separation amongst those four, but those are the four that I have top, and I actually listed them off in the order that I have them ranked. Number one is Joe Burrow out of LSU. Here's a guy that just had one of the greatest all-time seasons out of a quarterback we've seen in college football history. What the transformation from what he was as a junior to what he was as a senior was remarkable, something that I don't know if we've seen in college football ever before. And with the addition of Joe Brady as the passing game coordinator, with the emergence of Jamar Chase and Terrence Marshall and Clyde Allaire, I butchered his name, sorry. Edwards-Helaire, sorry. He was able to run that offense and run it at a high level that got them undefeated throughout the regular season and to the national championship game. And so, based on what he has, not only is he just happened to be a quarterback on the best team, he showed a lot of traits. His ability to, his pocket presence and movement within. It's not like he's Lamar Jackson out there running zone reads and getting to the outside. Just the way he flows within the pocket to get his throws off. He doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but he shows a good feel. He knows how to throw with anticipation and touch and accuracy down the field. Short to intermediate throws, he shows good anticipation, the ability to read and hit receivers open, and all those. With the season he had, whether you like him or not, Joe Burrow has earned that number one overall pick, and it looks like the Cincinnati Bengals are zeroing in and gonna make him the number one overall pick. If he doesn't go number one overall, it's gonna be a shock to me and a lot of people, just because I think he's done what he needs to do to earn that number one overall pick. Besides that, Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama is my number two guy. Here's a guy that is 6 foot, 217 pounds. When he's on the field, he showed just incredible ball placement and anticipation skills. He doesn't, Joe Burrow doesn't have the biggest arm, and Tua Tagovailoa's, I think, is a little bit below his yet, but he shows the ability to throw at all three levels. Short to intermediate, accurate thrower with good timing and ball placement. On his deep throws is where you really start to see the mental side. Because he doesn't have that big of an arm, Tua has to manipulate the defense. He has to look off safeties. He has to see receivers getting open and make throws before they are. Yes, it benefits him to have good receivers. Jalen Waddell, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith. I mean, it's just an embarrassment of riches. And yes, he has those guys, but there's a lot more to it than just saying, oh, hey, I'm just going to throw the ball, distribute out. He gets those guys open as well. And the big knock on him is, he doesn't have the best arm, so he does have to rely on that anticipation, and that's going to be a little bit tougher in the NFL just because you're going to have to face elite defensive backs on a game in and game out basis. The big concern with Tua is his health. He's had he's ankle surgery on both of his ankles. He had his hip surgery. We've never seen a player have his hip injury and come back from it. I mean, the only thing that people can think of is Bo Jackson, and his career was ended. Now, everything that we see out of Tua Tagovailoa is that he is healthy, or he's getting there. Everything is checking. He's checking all the boxes as he goes. So let's hope that he can get out there. Now, the whole situation with the coronavirus and social distancing is going to prevent him probably from having a pro day. They thought that maybe right before the draft he'd be able to get out there and throw and move around for teams. Now, he still could do that, and they could record it and send it out to all the teams, but it's different seeing it on video than seeing it in person with your own two eyes. So it'll be curious to see if that affects him come the NFL draft. Now, Burrow and Tua are my top two quarterbacks. I actually have them with the same grade. And the reason why I went with Burrow ahead of Tua was because of the durability. That's the only reason, in my opinion, that Burrow's up there. He's bigger, and he doesn't have those injury issues. Tua is not a bad athlete, but he's someone that's not overly fast and explosive, and he is able to move around the pocket, and a lot of that is because of his lateral agility. And so I'm curious to see how his hip injury affects that lateral agility and his ability to move within the pocket. Number 3 is Justin Herbert. I think Herbert is a guy, I'm a big fan of him, and I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap with other people just because of the nature of what Oregon asked him to do within their offense. But he's a guy that's 6'6", 236 pounds, so he's big, he's thick, he's got the ability to withstand some hits. And in Oregon's offense, they didn't really ask him to do a whole lot. They just they had a good running game. They had the best offensive line in college football. And so they asked him to just kind of distribute the ball. And so that's what a majority of his throws were. He didn't have the ability, but when he did need to drive the ball down the field and move the team vertically, he did show a lot of the traits that we've seen. He's got good recognition skills. He's got the ability to look off defenders. He's manipulated safeties with his eyes. He's shown the ability to throw with anticipation and get the ball to where the receivers need it a lot of times before they're even open. I look at Herbert, and you kind of compare him to Tua and Burrow. Tua and Burrow had elite receivers. Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's going to be a first-round pick probably this year. Terrence Marshall's probably going to be a first, second-round pick when he declares. Jamar Chase is probably going to be a top 10 pick. Thaddeus Moss is going to be, probably a late day 2, early day 3 pick. Those are his, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a draft pick. Tua Tagovailoa's got Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, both probably going to be top 20 picks. He's got Jalen Waddell is going to be a first-round pick next year. Devontae Smith's probably going to be a first-round pick next year. He's had Irv Smith Jr. was a pick last year for a tight end on day 2. They've all have these elite weapons. Justin Herbert didn't have that. His best receiver, his best pass catcher was Jacob Breeland, their tight end, who got hurt. He probably would have been a day 2 pick at best if he would have been healthy. They got the wide receiver transfer from Penn State that really, Juwan Johnson, who, we thought maybe he could be a guy that works his way into day 2. He didn't really have the best season. And then Herbert had to deal with a lot of underclassmen guys. So with what they asked him to do and the lack of receivers, what would have Justin Herbert been able to do if he was in LSU's offense? What would he have been able to do if he was in Alabama's offense? Would he have been able to put up those historic numbers? I mean, it's hard to say yes because it's historic, but I think his numbers and a lot of people's perception on him would have been different. Now, grading just his traits, I am a little bit lower on him because there are a few things that he still needs to work on. But I think if you're saying, oh, he's not that good, blah, 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 look what all, you got to look beyond that and look for those throws. And you might have to dig a little bit harder, but they are out there. So I like Herbert. I think he has a high ceiling, but I think a lot of it goes to where he's going to go too as well. All right, the last quarterback within that first tier is Jordan Love, and we're seeing a lot of love for Jordan Love, and it's justifiable just because of his physical traits. And he goes to the combine, he throws the ball well. You see all this adoration for him, and you watch the tape, and he's got short to intermediate throws are tremendous. He throws good zip on the ball. He drives the ball to the receivers, shows anticipation. The problem I have with Jordan Love, and I don't hear this a lot with people, I try to not cloud my analysis of these prospects by listening to a lot of people, but I don't hear this, and I've listened to several people that I respect and I think do a tremendous job, and I'm a little surprised. Jordan Love's deep ball, I'm concerned with. And all the games that I've seen him play, the 5, 6, 7 games that I've watched him play, I've seen it show up in every single one of those games. When he throws his deep ball, he doesn't drive the ball. And you can't just throw a line on your deep balls. You got to put some air in it. But he tends to put way too much air under the ball, and it really affects his accuracy. It causes him to almost have to throw it up there and let his receiver go get it. And sometimes they're having to slow down. Sometimes it goes over their head. A lot, it leads to some interceptions. And you kind of wish, dude, just kind of throw with a little bit more zip. And there's times that he shows that. And I did a NFL Draft Geek film room on him, and he is. And he'll show it at times, but he doesn't do it. It's just a few and far between. And I think that's something that you can correct. I'm no quarterback guru. I'm not Andy Reid. I'm not whoever out there. I think you can fix that. But he's getting compared to guys like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes didn't have a problem with his deep ball. He's one of the best deep ball throwers we've seen come out. And you see that with Jordan Love. The concern, and this is a little bit even more alarming, is his interceptions. He had 17 interceptions his senior year. He only had 12 last 2 years prior. And I went back and when I watched those games, a lot of his interceptions, some of them were, underthrown deep balls, but a lot of them were missing underneath defenders on throws. Times where the linebacker would just kind of flow over and get an interception or just sit there. And it's what are you trying to just fit it in there and think you can get it by them? Or you just not seeing them? And that's alarming as well. Can you fix that? Is that pressing, or is that just not seeing things? So that's just something to kind of keep an eye on. I tend to kind of get Burrow, and Herbert group more together. The reason I can put Love in with this first tier of quarterbacks is just because those are the for sure first round picks. I don't think there's going to be another first round pick in this draft. I think those four are. I think those four have a great shot. The first three are going in the top 10. They're going to be top 10 picks. Love is the wild card. He could be a top 10 pick. He could maybe fall to the 20s. I think he's going to go there. If he starts sliding, someone's going to trade up. He could really benefit from having a year to sit. I thought maybe the Colts, with signing Phillip Rivers, would bring in Jordan Love at the 13th pick, sit him for a year. We saw Rivers sign only a 1-year deal, but then they traded that pick away to the San Francisco 49ers. So now they don't have it. So who's going to move up to get him if he falls out of the top 10? Is Jacksonville. Now they don't have Nick Foles. Are they going to take a shot on Jordan Love? Is the Patriots going to move up to get him? It'll be kind of curious to see. All right, as we move on to Tier 2, and I only have 2 guys in Tier 2, and the reason why I have these two grouped together, not only is because they're my 5th and 6th rated quarterbacks in this class, but I see these two are the next. These two are guys that could be starters in this league, depending on the fit. The top 4 are definitely, I think, have the shots to be franchise quarterbacks. I don't think there's an elite. There's not an Andrew Luck in this draft. There's not a Peyton Manning in this draft. Those to me are elite quarterbacks. You go from elite quarterback to franchise quarterback to starting quarterback. And I think Jacob Eason and Jalen Hurts are guys that could be starters in the league, but it all depends on who drafts them. So much about the NFL draft is all about fit, and a lot of the quarterbacks that have busted have been, or sometimes even success, have been because they went to the perfect fit. Look at Lamar Jackson. Tremendous athlete, tremendous skill set. He went to the perfect situation with the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are a team that's traditionally had an elite defense, traditionally been a run-oriented team. So they jump in with Lamar Jackson and then go all in on him. And they build this offense around Lamar Jackson's traits to pull out his strengths and fit with the team. And look what they had. They had one of the best regular seasons we've seen out of a quarterback in this situation. Look at what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, tremendous talent, maybe needed to sit and develop just a little bit. He goes to the Kansas City Chiefs with Andy Reid. He gets to sit behind Alex Smith, a cerebral quarterback. They sit him for a full season. They move on from Alex Smith, and now Patrick Mahomes is ready to go. With Jacob Eason and Jalen Hurts, I think they've got, not to be Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, but I think they've got the ability to become starters given the right fit. And they are two different types of quarterbacks totally. Eason is your prototypical pocket quarterback, the type of quarterback that teams wanted, late 90s, early 2000s, the big physical, vertical passing game type quarterback, where Jalen Hurts is more of the new age quarterback that's an athlete that can move and make throws. Now, as I said, both of these guys, to be successful in NFL quarterbacks, they have to go to the right fit. And Jacob Eason's a guy, and the rumor is that there was a rumor out there heading into the combine that one team has Jacob Eason as their second-rated quarterback in the draft. And a lot of people assume that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just because Bruce Arians is a vertical passing coach. And that very well could be the case. Now, the Buccaneers signed Tom Brady, and that complicates things. Are they going to sign Tom Brady to a short-term deal and then draft a quarterback in the second or third round? I wouldn't think so, but you wouldn't put it past them. But a team that wants a quarterback to sit in the pocket, that is definitely a team that is going to want Eason, and you're going to have a strong offensive line. Maybe the Colts. Maybe the Colts are a team that take a shot on Eason because they can sit and develop and let him, kind of work on some of his things. Because, Eason has talent. That's not the question. But he's got to be protected to an extent. He makes good decisions. He can throw with touch to anticipation. He's got good accuracy. But what hurts him is his ability to move within the pocket and his recognition skills. So it's going to take a little bit of time. Jalen Hurts on the other side, he's going to need a team that's going to want to build around his athletic traits. Now, he's not Lamar Jackson, but if you're going to draft Jalen Hurts and want him to be your future quarterback, you want to probably take advantage of his running. And, he's a mobile quarterback that can run with power. The comparison that I've seen with Jalen Hurts, and I actually kind of like that, is Dak Prescott. If those of you who aren't as familiar with Dak Prescott from his time with Ole Miss or Mississippi State, he was a guy that, ran a lot of zone reads. He was a power runner. At one point, I thought, maybe Carolina should take a run at him and have him be a backup to Cam Newton. And then he ends up going to Dallas, and they end up having to start him right away, and he also proved that he can, go out and compete. But Dallas, they were able to bring him slowly along because they had a strong running game. So I think if Jalen Hurts is the guy that you want to be your starting quarterback, you want to be your potential franchise quarterback. I mean, Dak Prescott's shown he could be a quarterback and win in this league. Now, he hasn't won at a high level, but he's a guy that can win in this league. They had to kind of build around him and be a run-oriented team and make him not have to carry the load. And Hurts showed this year at Oklahoma that he can be an accurate thrower. He can, and he developed under Lincoln Riley as a guy that can throw, and he improved on his touches and anticipation. He improved on his ball placement, and I think with time that could happen. So maybe a team, once again, that has a strong running game. I use the Colts once again for an example. They've got Phillip Rivers. Maybe you bring in Jalen Hurts and you draft him in the 3rd round, and you bring him in and you kind of use him in a few gadget plays, and all the while you're developing him behind Phillip Rivers, who's on a 1-year contract. So that definitely is something to kind of keep an eye on and kind of remember. Now, Tier 3, I have 2 guys once again in Tier 3, and these are guys that I think have a shot. I think they're more along the lines of a backup in this league, but I think that they have a shot to be a starter, down the road. And that is Anthony Gordon out of Washington State and Jake Fromm out of Georgia. Anthony Gordon came in after Gardner Minshew with Washington State, a guy that's a little bit bigger, 6 foot, 205 pounds. He's got a little bit stronger of an arm, very accurate. We've seen that a lot out of Mike Leach quarterbacks. They show good accuracy. But he just kind of left you wanting more. He didn't have the best recognition skills. He didn't have, his touch and anticipation is okay. He has some of the tools, and we're seeing these air raid teams, these teams in the NFL display more air raid principles. And a guy like Andrew Gordon can come in and, be a backup in the league. Luke Falk, who I think Gordon's a much better prospect than, has stuck around and even started a game. Gardner Minshew, a lot of people thought, hey, I thought he was like, okay, he could be a backup in this league. And he gone out and he had some success. So I think Gordon's got that potential. And when you're an accurate thrower, that is going to help your case. Now, the reason I put Jake Fromm in this category is the guy's a winner. I mean, he may not have the best physical tools, and he's not the most accurate thrower, but he shows good anticipation. He's good at recognizing. But I kind of at times felt like he held Georgia back. When I was breaking him down and breaking down some of his teammates, he kept saying, gosh, they've got all these good athletes. You got good running backs. You got good receivers. Why aren't they not winning more? I mean, they won at a high level. They he took them to a national championship game. They're on the edge of the playoffs. I get that. But I kind of felt like he was kind of holding them back a little bit. But the thing is, the guy's a competitor. He held off Jacob Eason, held off Justin Fields. And they trusted him to lead the team over those guys. And that says a lot. And I think he's a guy that come in, he's a smart guy. He can help the quarterback room. We've seen guys like him get drafted. Kevin Hogan was a guy that got drafted and bounced around in the league for several years. I think Fromm is a better version of that. And a team looking for a guy that maybe in the middle rounds that they can say, hey, this guy's a competitor. He knows how to win, blah, 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 blah. Let's take a shot on him and see if we can develop him into a high-level backup. And that's kind of where I see him. Now, everybody else fits into this 4th tier, and I just said it's everybody else just because it's everybody else. There's a lot of different guys out there. I think some guys have potential, but they're projects. And I say that, but how many projects have really panned out? Sure, you got the Tom Brady drafted in the 6th round. Sure, you have Gardner Minshew. But a lot of these are just taking shots in the dark and hoping, I guess maybe Dak Prescott would have fit into this type of role. Jake Clutton from Oregon State's a guy that's really intriguing to me. He's my 10th rated guy, 6'6", 224 pounds. He's an athlete. He can move around. Showed me a little bit better accuracy. And I think he's a guy that's got tools. And if I'm going to take a guy on day 3, if I'm going to take a project guy, I want one with tools. And if you can throw the ball and you're a good athlete, you've got those tools. And Mason finds a guy that is intriguing to me. He's a smaller guy, 5'10", 189 pounds. Wasn't invited to the combine. Was at the Shrine game. And he very well could go undrafted. But when I watched him this summer, he really kind of jumped out at me. I went back and watched the Arkansas tape once again. And he put up he looked pretty good. for the most part, as a junior, didn't have the best year this year. The ball on his short to intermediate throws really jumped out. He showed some good accuracy, good zip on the ball. Showed a lot of anticipation on hook and out routes. The ball was out before the receiver was making his throw. But the further the ball went, that's where he really struggled. But he's a guy that I thought, he's someone that I could see him getting a camp invite, impressing there. They bring him in, maybe he sits on a practice squad and is a backup at some point. But he was definitely somebody that kind of jumped out on the tape for me. Another guy, Bryce Perkins, who is Paul Perkins, running back in the league, his younger brother. He's at Virginia, 6'3", 215 pounds. Another guy that when I watched him, especially this summer, really kind of jumped out at me. Kind of carried that Virginia offense. A guy that's a good athlete that can make some accurate throws, especially on the short to intermediate. A few other guys. I mean, James Morgan got a lot of buzz, especially after his performance at the Shrine game. 6'4", 229 pounds. He had a nice game against Miami earlier this season. A guy that kind of does a lot of things well or okay, but isn't elite at anything. Cole Mcdonald was a guy that I had high hopes going into this year, but the more tape I watched in 2019, the more I wasn't a huge fan of him. I thought his accuracy really dropped this year compared to the previous year, so on and so forth. So that kind of, Steven Montez is another guy that I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to like him more as a senior. 6'5", 230 pounds. A guy that at times can show some high-level throws. Just kind of really disappointed in the 2019, so on and so forth. Thoughts on this class overall? I think it's really, in all reality, a top-heavy quarterback class. You've got your top four guys, and in all reality, I know I broke it up into four tiers. It's that top tier and nobody else. And in all reality, I wouldn't be shocked if this, and maybe this is my hot take from the quarterback class, I wouldn't be shocked if this quarterback class completely bombed. I mean, I look at the top four, and I like this top four. It's at the same level. A couple years ago, we had Sam Darnold and Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield and Josh Rosen. We had four guys get drafted in the top 10 for kind of the first time ever. And I see these guys on the same level as those type of players, but just look at that class. Right now, Josh Allen, who a lot of people didn't like, some people were saying should be a tight end in the league, is kind of played the best. Baker Mayfield showed some glimpses, but he's fallen off. Sam Darnold has just really struggled to kind of get it consistently going. Josh Rosen's on his second team and could potentially be on his third team by the time the next season starts. And Josh Allen's, led his team to the playoffs and looks like a guy that's ascending in the league. Now, no one thinks he'll be the next Peyton Manning, but I could see that with this class. Joe Burrow, as well as he played this year, he had a lot of weapons around him. He was a one-year wonder. Is he going to have that same success going to the Cincinnati Bengals? Some of these quarterbacks that struggle because the organization around them can't support them. So could that happen? Could Burrow just be a one-year wonder, go to the Bengals who aren't well run, and flounder out? Tua, all injury-based. If he doesn't recover from his hip injury, that's going to limit to him. He's a smaller guy. Yes, he's thicker, but he's still a smaller guy who doesn't have a big arm and is not a big athlete. Justin Herbert, I like him, and he shows some next-level traits, but he hasn't showed it consistently. Another guy that is just a big athlete, and maybe he doesn't have that natural feel for the game. And then Jordan Love, I mentioned earlier, with his interceptions, with his deep ball, a small school guy that struggled going into his last year at college, there's a lot of red flags around him too. So as much as we want to get excited for Burrow, Tua, Herbert, and Love, and I like those guys, and I'm not wishing bad things on them, and I think they can have success in this league, it all depends on fit, and it wouldn't shock me if these guys didn't pan out to the type of prospects that we wanted. We want Tua to be that next Andrew Luck type guy. We've been talking about him since he came in the second half of the national championship game. Justin Herbert's been a name we've been talking about. Joe Burrow just blew up. We want these guys to have success. but I'm not hitching my horse to these guys. I'm not betting my mortgage that these guys are going to be the next, the guys leading the NFL into the next, decade. But they are fun to watch. I can't wait to see where they're drafted and see how their NFL careers go.